Welcome to Audiobook Zone. The introduction of The Molecule of More sets the stage by diving into a powerful concept, the world we see, up versus down. Looking down, we see what we can control, objects within reach, things we already possess. But when we look up, we see a world beyond our grasp, a realm that requires effort, imagination, and ambition to access. This contrast highlights two different mindsets that govern human experience: satisfaction with what we have versus the drive for more. At the heart of this drive lies dopamine, the molecule that propels us toward dreams and desires. Unlike other neurotransmitters that make us feel content, dopamine pushes us to pursue things we don't yet have, whether it's material possessions, knowledge, love, or power. This molecular drive explains why humans constantly seek new goals and achievements, often finding themselves restless with what they already have. The book's exploration of dopamine promises to reveal how this chemical shapes human behavior, relationships, and the pursuit of fulfillment in profound ways, showing both the blessing and burden of wanting more. This journey sets out to explore how understanding dopamine can help us find balance, harness our ambitions, and, perhaps, lead us to true contentment. Before we start, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please subscribe to the channel and like the video to support our next video. Chapter 1: Love. Love begins with a powerful spark that many find irresistible, the thrilling effect of dopamine, the brain's chemical of desire and anticipation. When two people fall in love, dopamine floods the brain, giving rise to intense attraction, excitement, and hope for a perfect future together. This stage, often referred to as passionate or romantic love, is driven by the promise of potential rewards and possibilities that a new relationship offers. In these early days, every interaction with the partner feels electric, and each moment spent together seems filled with limitless potential. Dopamine creates a powerful bond by keeping our minds focused on the future we imagine with our partner, full of dreams, plans, and promises. However, dopamine has an insatiable nature. It's designed to keep us moving toward new goals and aspirations. This same quality can be the reason why the intensity of new love doesn't last. Dopamine thrives on novelty, so as the relationship becomes familiar, the dopamine-fueled excitement can start to fade. Many people are puzzled by this shift, and some might interpret it as falling out of love. But this change doesn't have to signal the end of a meaningful relationship. Rather, it's an invitation to move into a deeper, more enduring phase of love. As the initial rush of dopamine wears off, another set of brain chemicals, collectively referred to as the here and now molecules, begin to play a larger role. These chemicals include oxytocin, often known as the bonding hormone, as well as vasopressin and endorphins. Unlike dopamine, which is focused on future possibilities, these molecules are rooted in present experiences. They foster feelings of attachment, stability, and contentment, which are essential for long-term, fulfilling relationships. This shift marks the transition from passionate love to companionate love, where two people find joy in each other's company and in shared experiences, rather than in the thrill of what's to come. This second phase of love doesn't have the same intensity as the dopamine-driven stage, but it brings a deeper, more reliable sense of connection and satisfaction. Couples who understand this transition are better equipped to sustain their relationship through life's ups and downs. They learn to appreciate the steady companionship that grows over time and find comfort in the familiarity they share. A practical takeaway here is that understanding the chemistry behind love can help couples navigate changes in their relationship more gracefully. For example, when the thrill of newness wears off, instead of seeking dopamine from external sources, like new romantic interests or constant novel experiences, couples can focus on nurturing here and now experiences. Simple practices, like spending quality time together, expressing gratitude, and supporting each other's growth, can help maintain the connection and satisfaction that companionate love provides. This shift in love is also evident in the daily lives of long-term partners. Many find joy not in grand gestures but in the quiet, comforting presence of their partner, knowing they're there at the end of a long day or sharing a simple meal. Small acts of kindness, touch, and shared routines foster oxytocin and strengthen the bond, creating a lasting partnership that isn't reliant on constant newness. Ultimately, understanding love as a journey from dopamine's pursuit of novelty to the here and now molecule's focus on presence can be liberating. It shows that while the excitement of early romance fades, it makes room for a richer, more dependable form of love, one that's rooted in genuine companionship, trust, and shared life experiences. By appreciating this shift, couples can embrace a love that endures, grounded in the contentment and peace of being truly present with one another. Chapter 2: Drugs. Dopamine plays a major role in how the brain responds to drugs. Normally, dopamine encourages us to pursue rewards that benefit us, like food or social interaction. It motivates us to take action toward a goal, then lets us feel satisfied once the goal is achieved. But drugs disrupt this balance by hijacking the dopamine system and creating an intense high that can't be matched by natural rewards. Drugs like cocaine, heroin, and alcohol release a huge surge of dopamine, far beyond what the brain usually experiences. This overwhelming stimulation doesn't come with any natural limits, so the brain gets caught in a cycle of craving more. Each time the brain receives a burst of dopamine from drugs, it learns to prioritize that sensation over everything else, leading to intense cravings. Over time, the brain starts seeing drugs as more essential than even food or sleep, pushing people to use again and again to recreate that initial high. This effect is especially powerful because of how dopamine influences learning and memory. Normally, dopamine helps us remember important experiences so we can repeat them. But with drugs, this system becomes overstimulated, making drug use feel like the most crucial experience to remember and repeat. For example, if someone regularly uses a drug in a specific place or with certain people, those surroundings start triggering cravings, as they remind the brain of the pleasure associated with drug use. This is why people recovering from addiction often struggle when they encounter places or people tied to their habit. Their brain has linked these cues to powerful dopamine responses. The way drugs are consumed also affects how addictive they are. For instance, smoking crack cocaine creates a sharper, faster dopamine spike than snorting it, since it enters the bloodstream and reaches the brain almost instantly. This rapid rush intensifies the association between the drug and pleasure, reinforcing the addiction more strongly than if the effects were slower. Over time, as drugs continue to overstimulate dopamine circuits, the brain begins to rewire itself to prioritize drugs above all else. This leads to a sort of tunnel vision, where the brain becomes fixated on drugs as the solution to any emotional state, whether stress, sadness, or even happiness. The brain starts interpreting every feeling as a reason to use drugs, making it increasingly difficult to break the cycle. Addiction isn't just about pleasure seeking, it's about how the brain learns to rely on drugs as a response to life itself. This cycle becomes a trap where the brain's natural reward system is hijacked, making it nearly impossible to feel fulfilled without drugs. People struggling with addiction find it difficult to make decisions that go against the pull of dopamine, as their brains have been rewired to prioritize drugs over everything else. Understanding this process reveals why addiction is such a powerful force. It's not about weak willpower, it's a biological response where the brain's dopamine system is taken over, leading to deep-rooted cravings that shape behavior. Knowing this can be the first step toward recovery, as it shows that addiction is a brain-based condition with specific patterns and responses that can be addressed with the right treatments and support. Chapter 3: Domination. Dopamine doesn't just fuel our desires, it also drives us to dominate our surroundings. This dominance isn't always about aggression, it's often a calculated, goal-oriented control of the environment, using strategies to overcome obstacles. Dopamine motivates us to push through complex challenges, endure discomfort, and strategically plan so we can gain control over resources, situations, and even other people. It's this drive that allows us to shape our surroundings to meet our needs, and it plays a critical role in ambitious goals and long-term accomplishments. One key aspect of this domination drive is planning. Dopamine enables us to look beyond the immediate present and strategize to achieve what we want. This planning ability is unique to the control circuit of dopamine, which allows us to suppress impulsive desires and focus on long-term goals. Think of it as the brain's executive function. It can guide us to build, invent, and create, sometimes ignoring immediate pleasures or discomfort to reach an end goal. In competitive environments, dopamine can help us keep our cool and think strategically rather than reacting emotionally. In sports, for example, athletes often use psychological tactics to throw off their opponents, triggering an emotional reaction that clouds their judgment. This is because impulsive reactions tend to diminish our ability to think clearly. By keeping emotions in check, athletes with a strong dopamine-driven control circuit can dominate situations with a calculated approach. This control isn't just limited to sports, it applies in many areas of life, such as business negotiations or high-stakes decision-making, where staying calm and focused is an advantage. Interestingly, dopamine-driven dominance doesn't have to be aggressive. It can be as subtle as knowing when to take a passive approach to influence others. For instance, in the workplace, a manager might lead a meeting by simply listening and subtly guiding others toward their desired outcome without direct confrontation. This is a form of passive dominance, where the individual achieves their goal by directing the environment indirectly. Dopamine, in this case, is flexible. It doesn't require a particular method, just a result. The concept of agentic relationships also illustrates dopamine's role in domination. These relationships are formed with a clear goal in mind. For example, a mentor-mentee relationship is often agentic, where both parties aim to gain something specific, one learns, and the other shares knowledge. Such relationships are not primarily about enjoyment or emotional connection but about achieving a particular outcome, directed by dopamine's goal-focused nature. In contrast, affiliative relationships, those based on companionship and pleasure in the here and now, are driven by other brain chemicals like oxytocin. Agentic relationships can become exploitative if one party uses the other purely as a tool. For instance, an employer who manipulates employees to work long hours under false pretenses might be exercising an exploitative form of dominance. Yet, agentic relationships can also be positive. Philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson described learning from everyone he met, seeing each person as his master, in some respect. This perspective is agentic but also respectful, recognizing that each person has unique knowledge to offer. By blending humility with a desire to learn, we can use dopamine-driven relationships to grow without exploiting others. Dopamine's control circuit also allows us to override emotions that could interfere with our goals. For example, people with a strong dopamine control system can stay calm under pressure, making logical decisions even in stressful situations. This emotional suppression is an advantage in any high-stakes environment, where reacting emotionally can lead to poor decisions. The ability to stay calm and act strategically is a hallmark of dopamine-driven dominance, allowing individuals to pursue their goals efficiently and effectively. There's also a darker side to this dominance drive: violence. When dopamine is in control, it can drive cold aggression, calculated, strategic violence used to achieve a specific outcome. Unlike impulsive violence triggered by anger, dopamine-fueled aggression is devoid of emotion and is focused purely on reaching a goal. This type of violence is seen in instances where individuals or groups plan actions carefully to gain control or resources. However, dopamine doesn't always express itself through aggression. It can just as easily drive calculated patience, depending on what the situation requires. The chapter also explores self-efficacy, our belief in our ability to succeed, as a critical factor in dominance. High self-efficacy can lead to remarkable resilience and persistence, enabling people to take on challenges and push through setbacks with confidence. This belief often acts as a self-fulfilling prophecy. When people expect to succeed, they are more likely to persevere, which increases their chances of actual success. In one example, athletes who believe they will win often perform better, as this confidence helps them remain focused and resilient under pressure. Dopamine-driven dominance even shapes our body language. Research shows that people who feel confident expand their body posture, while those feeling uncertain shrink to take up less space. Dominant postures send nonverbal signals of confidence and self-efficacy, influencing how others perceive us. This body language affects social interactions, often prompting people to either yield or respond in kind. For example, studies with chimpanzees show that submissive gestures reduce the chance of conflict, while mirroring dominance often leads to confrontation. Chapter 4: Creativity and Madness. Creativity and madness may seem like opposites, but both stem from the same brain processes driven by dopamine. This molecule enables us to think beyond the ordinary, breaking down boundaries of conventional thought and exploring possibilities others might overlook. Dopamine's influence on creativity allows us to connect ideas that seem unrelated, leading to discoveries and innovations. However, when this dopamine-driven process goes unchecked, it can also contribute to mental health challenges, blurring the line between genius and madness. At the heart of creativity is what scientists call model breaking. Our minds rely on models or frameworks to understand the world, but creativity requires us to challenge these assumptions and see things from new perspectives. For example, some people find solutions to complex problems by thinking abstractly or associating seemingly unrelated concepts. Research has shown that when we come up with creative ideas, a specific part of the brain activates, often linked to abstract thought and imagination. This part of the brain also shows heightened activity in people with schizophrenia, suggesting that creativity in certain mental disorders share similar pathways. Interestingly, drugs that increase dopamine levels, like those used to treat Parkinson's disease, can enhance creativity. Some patients who never engaged in creative pursuits before treatment have developed artistic skills, creating vibrant artwork or writing poetry. This is a clear example of dopamine's ability to push the brain beyond its usual limits, encouraging new forms of expression. However, while increased dopamine can fuel creativity, it also raises the risk of compulsive behaviors, as the brain constantly seeks stimulation and novelty. Dreams provide another fascinating connection between creativity and madness. During dreams, dopamine operates freely, unbound by the sensory limitations of waking life. This can result in bizarre, imaginative scenes where the impossible feels real. Psychologists describe dreams as resembling a form of temporary madness, where logic gives way to the abstract and illogical, much like the experience of psychosis. This similarity has led researchers to investigate the overlap between creative thinking and mental illness, with studies showing that the unusual connections made during dreams mirror the associations made by creative minds and, occasionally, by those experiencing psychotic symptoms. Dopamine-driven creativity isn't always easy to control. High levels of dopamine can suppress parts of the brain that manage empathy and social awareness, which explains why highly creative people sometimes struggle with personal relationships. This trait has been observed in historical figures like Albert Einstein, who, despite his contributions to science, reportedly had difficulty maintaining close personal connections. The focus on abstract ideas and creative pursuits can sometimes overshadow practical or social considerations, resulting in behavior that may seem detached or even eccentric to others. But while creativity can isolate individuals, it can also produce incredible innovations and artistic achievements. For instance, Brian Wilson, a musician from the Beach Boys, transformed popular music through complex, layered compositions. Yet, Wilson's creativity was accompanied by struggles with mental health, including auditory hallucinations. This combination of brilliance and instability exemplifies how the same dopaminergic processes that fuel groundbreaking ideas can sometimes lead to psychological turmoil. Efforts to enhance creativity have even involved stimulating specific brain regions associated with dopamine. Using techniques like transcranial direct current stimulation, researchers have been able to boost creativity in controlled experiments. Participants receiving mild electrical stimulation often show an increased ability to form unusual analogies, connecting ideas that typically wouldn't be linked. This method demonstrates that manipulating dopamine circuits can temporarily expand creative thinking, although it's not without potential risks. In summary, dopamine is both the spark of creativity and a potential trigger for mental instability. Its role in breaking conventional thought patterns allows people to generate innovative ideas, yet this same quality can lead to an unrestrained mental state if not balanced. Recognizing dopamine's dual nature helps us understand the connection between creativity and madness, shedding light on why some of the world's greatest minds have walked the fine line between genius and instability. By understanding this balance, we gain insights into how creativity functions and why it sometimes comes at a personal cost. Chapter 5: Politics. Dopamine has a powerful impact on politics, driving individuals and entire systems toward constant change, control, and expansion. Political systems are fundamentally dopaminergic. They thrive on creating change, enacting new policies, and influencing people from a distance. In political contexts, dopamine's influence manifests in a push for more laws, more control, and more action. This drive explains why politicians, regardless of their ideology, focus on pushing agendas and rarely promise to maintain the status quo. One of dopamine's key features in politics is the tendency to do something rather than remain passive. Politicians often respond to crises with immediate action, not necessarily because it's effective, but because it fulfills the public demand for visible response. For instance, after security threats, governments may impose strict measures, like enhanced airport screenings, even when their effectiveness is questionable. This approach satisfies a dopaminergic need for action, reinforcing the idea that something is being done to address the issue. Political ideologies also reflect different brain circuits. Liberals tend to embrace change and long-term planning, which align with dopaminergic goals. They often support policies that address social issues from a distance, like welfare programs, which aim to improve society broadly rather than focusing on close, individual relationships. This approach aligns with dopamine's focus on abstract, future-oriented goals. In contrast, conservative ideologies often emphasize tradition, local control, and the importance of close, personal connections. This perspective is influenced by here-and-now neurotransmitters like oxytocin, which focus on immediate experiences and connections with others. Conservatives may prefer local governance, where decisions feel closer and more personal, rather than distant federal authority. This difference between dopaminergic liberals and here-and-now oriented conservatives can lead to fundamental misunderstandings. Conservatives see liberals as pushing for distant control, while liberals view conservatives as resistant to necessary progress. Political leaders are often highly dopaminergic, as ambition and relentless pursuit of goals are necessary for election success. This intense drive can take a toll on personal relationships, as dopaminergic individuals may prioritize professional achievements over emotional bonds. In the US, for example, politicians are frequently separated from their families, living far from home to work in Washington, D.C., and dealing with the pressures of constant campaigning and policymaking. Relationships, for many in politics, become utilitarian, a means to an end, rather than a source of enjoyment and support. The tendency for politicians to operate at a distance allows them to make decisions without facing the immediate consequences felt by those affected. This distance effect enables them to make hard choices, like imposing taxes or sending troops abroad, without the personal, emotional impact that would come from directly interacting with those affected. This insulation makes it easier for politicians to prioritize abstract goals over individual well-being, aligning with dopamine's future-focused nature. Despite ideological differences, all politicians face the challenge of balancing dopamine-driven desires for power with the expectations of their constituents. This can create tension, especially for conservative politicians who campaign on promises of limiting government yet find themselves expanding it. For example, some Republican politicians have faced criticism for failing to reduce government size, even when that was a core campaign promise. Dopamine's endless drive for more often leads to growth, regardless of the initial intent. Finally, political discourse is often intensified by dopamine's role in generating desire and fear. Attack ads, which evoke fear about opposing candidates, play into the brain's natural response to threats, making them effective tools for winning votes. Fear taps into primal concerns, such as safety and security, creating a powerful emotional reaction that can override rational decision-making. This divisive tactic deepens the political divide, encouraging people to view the opposing side as dangerous rather than as potential collaborators. Chapter 6. Progress. Dopamine has played a crucial role in human survival and advancement. It's the brain chemical that pushes us to seek more, strive for better, and expand our horizons. This drive was essential for early humans who migrated from Africa around 200,000 years ago, scattering across continents over thousands of years. Their search for resources and safety helped our species avoid extinction, as dispersal provided protection against localized disasters like drought and disease. A unique aspect of dopamine is its effect on novelty seeking. It encourages curiosity and exploration, leading to creativity and adaptability. For instance, populations with higher levels of the 7R allele, a genetic variant associated with dopamine receptors, were more adventurous and more likely to survive in new environments. These dopamine-driven qualities continue to shape human progress. In today's world, however, our dopamine-driven desires sometimes lead to unintended consequences. Take environmental impact, for example. Dopamine's push for more has spurred industrial growth, yet this progress has also contributed to climate change and resource depletion. To address this, experts suggest shifting our focus from constant expansion to sustainable practices, but doing so requires countering our ingrained desire for better, faster, and more. Technology, another product of our dopaminergic drive, has vastly transformed our lives, but it brings risks. Rapid advances in artificial intelligence illustrate this. AI systems are evolving to make decisions and even adapt autonomously, raising ethical and safety concerns. Experts are working to embed ethical guidelines in AI, but the unpredictability of self-learning machines means there are no guarantees. Limiting AI development might seem prudent, yet dopamine's relentless drive for innovation makes it unlikely. Additionally, our pursuit of more has begun affecting family life. Fertility rates are declining in many developed countries as people prioritize careers, comfort, and personal fulfillment over raising families. This shift may have long-term societal impacts, leading to aging populations and economic challenges as birth rates fall below replacement levels. While individuals naturally seek personal satisfaction, dopamine's role in prioritizing self-interest over collective well-being can create societal imbalances. Dopamine's influence on human behavior is both a strength and a potential risk. It has brought remarkable progress, but as our capacity for achieving more increases, so does the risk of overreaching. A balanced approach, one that channels dopamine's power for innovation toward sustainable and ethical goals, may offer the best path forward for a stable future. Chapter 7. Harmony. Harmony is about finding balance between dopamine-driven desires for future rewards and the here-and-now neurotransmitters that allow us to enjoy the present moment. This balance is key to leading a satisfying life. Dopamine can keep us striving endlessly, often making us anxious or overly focused on what might happen next. In contrast, here-and-now chemicals like serotonin help us relax, appreciate the present, and feel connected to others. Consider a middle-aged man struggling with depression and future-focused anxiety. His worries about potential problems kept him from enjoying daily life. Therapy, including an antidepressant targeting here and now circuits, helped him refocus and restore emotional balance. This example shows how integrating dopamine's drive with here and now's contentment can lead to a healthier mental state. Balancing dopamine and here and now isn't just about emotional stability, it can also enhance our creative and sensory experiences. Engaging in simple, hands-on activities like painting, cooking, or even using adult coloring books allows us to combine planning with sensory engagement, leading to a richer, more fulfilling experience. When our imagination and sensory experiences merge, our brains operate at peak performance, fostering deeper satisfaction and creativity. Movies like Avatar illustrate this harmony. The main character, initially driven by a dopamine-heavy focus on achievement, discovers a balanced life by embracing the natural, connected lifestyle of the Na-6 people. This shift brings him peace and a sense of fulfillment that his past pursuits couldn't provide. To cultivate harmony, consider incorporating activities that engage both planning and sensory appreciation. Practice mindfulness to fully experience each moment, whether that's through hobbies, spending time in nature, or connecting with others. Embracing a balance of dopamine here and now not only promotes well-being but also helps unlock a fuller, more enriching life. Conclusion. In our pursuit of more achievement, innovation, and experiences, dopamine has undeniably fueled human progress. It's driven us to explore, create, and push boundaries. However, as we've seen, this constant pursuit isn't without its drawbacks. Unchecked, dopamine can lead us into cycles of endless striving, where satisfaction remains out of reach. Balance is essential. Integrating the present moment enjoyment offered by other brain chemicals with dopamine's future-driven motivation can lead to a more fulfilling and sustainable life. It's about knowing when to push forward and when to appreciate what we already have. By understanding the dual nature of our minds, we can make better choices that fulfill our goals without overwhelming us or leading to unintended consequences. Thank you for tuning in. If you found this summary insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more content exploring the depths of human nature and growth.